Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the RationalInvestor.com's Daily Brief. Woohoo! It's Friday, TGIF. Oh boy, what a week we've had in the market the past week. Got a little bit of a punch in the nose midweek from good old Bitcoin, but never a dull moment in this space. And actually, it's interesting. I saw actually a few tweets suggesting that 2-day price action that violent actually is usually followed by a nice little counter trend rally. So if we're lucky, maybe Brian's been talking about hangover and how the market was going to act into the end of the year. In previous years, we dumped right into the end of the year. Maybe if we're really lucky, we dump now and then we start consolidating and working our base. Who knows? But anyway, we have lots to talk about today. We'll get to that shortly. Just a quick FYI, the mayor of Vienna is out. I think he's getting pissed drunk right now because it's his birthday. So actually, we have a whole bunch of TRIers that are having birthdays in here. Julian just had his birthday, so happy belated, Julian. I'm sure everybody on the site wished him a good birthday. And of course, he was face down in a Thailand ditch recently. Alex just is having his birthday now. So, hopefully he's having a great day. If you do watch this later on, Alex, we're all thinking about you. And as a special treat, missed him terribly, we do have the bear back in the house. Thomas is with us this morning. How you doing, sir?
Hey, I'm doing good. Really glad to be back and talking to everyone and hanging out with you, Brian.
Awesome. Oh, look at that. We are live on YouTube. That's good. Everything's marching along there. Hello, Nathaniel. Nathaniel's over. Actually, Nathaniel's turning into a sharp little trader, I noticed. A couple guys in the lounge. I'm just having a great time chatting with Nathaniel and David Davis. Lots and lots of great content. We're just sort of bantering about. So really like to see the way that the lounge sort of morphs through the day. We have a little bit of European participation during that time frame. The Asians come in and during that window. And if anything, some people on the site were, hey, Julian, come on, Bear, pay attention, or participate a little bit more. So now that he is getting settled in Thailand, I think you're probably going to see him a little bit more through that Asian session. And of course, here we are in North America. And as soon as I get up in the morning, I'm in the lounge chit-chatting away. So great to see the community just humming along here. Anything else I wanted to report here before we get going in earnest? I don't think so. Yeah, okay. I think we're about ready to go. When we have Thomas here, I'm kind of, because the mayor is away today and he sort of drives the bus here, I'm sort of ad-libbing this as I go. It's been a while since I've run one of these sort of robust daily briefs on my own. So making sure all the links are all in the right place, and nice to see that we've got Thomas here this morning. So when we do have Thomas, actually it makes my life a little easier because he always sort of paints a nice little roadmap for us to follow through the day. So, Mr. Thomas, where do we want to start first?
Well, we're going to start with our usual schedule, but I think we're going to make it a little brief with the amount of time we spend in the equity market, because I think the fireworks that happened yesterday with Bitcoin Cash and the fork need to be explained a little bit more. And I watched, there was a really, kind of like a live event that was being streamed with the Bitcoin Cash civil war. And I think it's fascinating what's going on there. So I really want to touch on that and make sure that, people have a good understanding as to what happened, what is happening, and what could potentially happen. So that's going to be part of the show. And then, of course, we've got a couple other news events going on, and we'll talk technicals. But first, we'll start in the equity market here and take a look at our stocks and quickly run through most of these and go through our big names here. Dow, S&P. Dow really did bounce off that 78.6 level and has come back down into what's a reload zone to go long if we do draw our fibs here. Now, I'm not saying that you want to be going long off of these positions, but we are in range. And again, I've said this before, range traders, this is really your paradise here with most of these names. Trading the big indices, I don't know if I'd just be buying these things. If you look at the S&P here, same thing. This has come off of about 61.8. I think this has gone a little bit further. And we're in between range. So what you really need to do is just kind of draw your battle lines at this point. I think, unfortunately, the 2600 level, a break below that means that, we've got further downside, and that would be pretty disastrous, I think, for this market to break those lows, especially before the end of the year. It looks like MarketWatch is starting to pump out some stories about Santa rallies and trying to get everyone to feel all good and joyful going into the holiday season here. But I think it's really anyone's game across most of these markets. I don't think there's a generalized direction to them at this point. I think they're just trying to clean up. And we've talked about the 2007 to the 2018 year that we're currently in, where stocks pretty much spent about a year trying to get their shit together. And then into 2008, September, October, we had that dump. Maybe that's going to happen here, but you just have to keep watch and make sure that you're on top of this, because this is a very key pivotal point here in the market that we're going through, in that of a topping pattern. So that's the commentary as far as the global or the broader equities here. I'm going to drill down according to my playlist here, if you will. The dollar caught my attention over the last couple days. Dollar broke out, went to about a 97.5 handle, went a little bit too far to the upside. I think the market was approaching oversold at this point, cleaned itself up a little bit. And this is just kind of like this is normal action to me. I would be shocked if the dollar took off here. And I'm interested to see that the dollar is coming off today. And I think that's a product of an interview that Steve Leisman had with a Fed chair yesterday. If you heard anything about that, Brian, where there was some questions as far as the Fed's enthusiasm for hiking in December, that maybe this isn't as much of a sure thing as they thought it was. So I think that's pushing the dollar out. And then interestingly, and I don't know if I have a chart here, but the 2-year treasuries actually took a nosedive, and the 30 and the 10-year actually looked okay. So as far as yield curves are concerned, I think that's you're going to get the short end coming down a little bit, but that's not really going to invert it. But Brian's the yield curve expert there, so I'll leave that for him to discuss. But it was interesting to see dollar came off almost a full point, or 10 points, I guess we would call it, from this 97.5 handle, and therefore gold caught a bit. So this inverse correlation is most certainly back in play again. And it was funny, I was out tweeting in the Twitter world, some trader guy was talking about how he packed his bags full long. I think it was, right in here when it was 1220. And I was like, well, I don't know if that's, if you're not aware of the inverse correlation with the dollar, I would be thinking twice about that. And then, of course, the dollar's come off. Gold's catching a little bit of a bid. I think the dollar would have to tank in order to see gold break above this 1240 level. And of course,
I would, if you'll let me interject.
Yeah, go for it.
We have to understand that, the Fed has become extremely political now. And the interview that we saw, let's see if I can find it here. The interview that we saw was actually by a recent Fed governor appointee. And of course, guess who appointed him? I can't find the darn screen I'm looking for here. I wonder where I seem to have lost it. Oh, here we are. Simon's on it, front and center. That's why. So the gentleman that you're talking about, I think his name was Christie, or I know what conversation you're talking about, but he came out and he was a little bit dovish.
There we go. Right, Richard Clarida.
Yeah. That's his name. And of course, the irony of it all, right, is that he's a Trump appointee. Mm-hmm. So very political. Here he is. Fed's number 2 says there are signs global growth is slowing, but doesn't think rate hikes are too rapid. And I think that, of course, is probably when I read these comments, what I took from it was, I don't think we're shocking the system, but at the same time, too, we have to take into account that the global situation may affect our decision-making process. I'm hearing that they still want to quote unquote normalize rates. And really, the bottom line here is, does the Fed ever engineer a soft landing, or do they usually engineer hard landings? Usually they're hard landings. The impression that I got was that the market liked what it heard out of this gentleman, kind of like what Thomas was just saying there a moment ago. But then at the same time, a couple of the semiconductor stocks reported earnings overnight, and they're just getting absolutely taken apart here this morning. So, yeah, I agree with you. This guy sort of injected a little bit of calm into the market. But at the same time, too, and I think Thomas makes a perfectly valid point that with this, and actually remember, especially all you YouTubers watching, Mr. Meow, if you want to meow in, if you see that I'm on the wrong screen. I apologize. I'm sort of running this whole thing on my own here, so I'm not doing very well. But there is that Clarida. And it's fascinating that he's already the number 2 guy, and yet Trump appointed him. Wow, that was awfully quick. So you can see there's a lot of politics going on with this. I actually look at the yield curve, and it looks to me like, interestingly enough, I don't think we're going to have inversion come in here, because it looks like all of the bonds are all rallying. You can see the beautiful bottom coming in on the bond market. And really, I think, probably we haven't talked about this in a while. 2 things. I put this chart out, and I think I talked a little bit about it yesterday. I don't think the Fed has any choice. The Fed, as long as the corporate interest rate market keeps going up, the Fed has to raise rates, or they're going to risk another financial asset crisis. So, like we heard a news release the other day, Fed, people are like, why is the Fed so confusing here? And I think, if anything, maybe they're trying to sort of jawbone the market into feeling a little bit happier. But the long and short of it here is the data, the actual data points in itself in the market. I think the Fed has to raise rates. Really, we've been watching this relationship forever. And I really like this as sort of our proxy of whether inflation is really back yet or not. The interesting thing about the Fed right now is all they're talking about is normalizing rates. So ironically enough, the bankers actually still feel like where interest rates are right at the moment is actually accommodative. They're actually trying to fight deflation. And I suppose you could argue that, given this relationship, the market still believes we're actually in deflation. And what I find fascinating is that the Americans are trying desperately to, quote unquote, normalize rates, just get everything back to balance. But, if the world economy rolls over here in earnest, they might have to go back into sort of this easing. So let's watch, how the inflation deflation plays out here. Now, we had energy prices come off dramatically. So that should be deflationary. That should help these bonds rally. And if anything, it should make sense why yields are falling, given how precipitous the fall in crude oil prices has been. I did hear a few people in the market talking about whether crude might bottom off a mountain man here. We can see that it painted an inside bar. We're back to the fast moving averages. We're well below value. And I might argue that, obviously, is it a good time to be selling crude right now? Absolutely not. If you didn't sell, you missed the boat. But I might argue that, level twoers just did this. Do you see, do we have any level twoers that just learned this yet? Do you see how 38.2 is going to line up really nicely with the bottom of value? See that, Andrew? Isn't that sick how that happens? So, I could easily see a lot to play down in here. And then if we accept back into value, then rock and roll. But I think crude prices are stuck sort of between 50 and 60 bucks for the time being. And that's assuming that this thing has bottomed. I don't know whether it's actually bottomed or not. I actually heard some people, a really cool news article, and I don't know whether you saw this, Thomas, but Volkswagen has announced that they're going to invest $40 billion into the mainstream production of electric cars. Boom! See you later, crude oil. That's about the easiest way you can knock the shit out of gasoline prices is these major auto manufacturers start to go into competition with the Teslas and that crazy Chinese company that David Davis is all squawking about. But so anyway, a couple comments with regard to interest rates and inflation there. I thought I'd throw in, and it's just really interesting how the pro-Trump guy who's just been announced to the Fed, what a coincidence. He literally is a mouthpiece for Trump. And so Trump, of course, has been bitching about higher interest rates. And so what a surprise. His puppet comes out and says, oh, no, we're dovish, no more higher rates, blah, blah, blah. Anyway, take it with a big grain of salt. All right, back to Thomas. Brian, shut the hell up.
I love that commentary. So as far as the market's concerned, there was another article that grabbed my attention, and that was NVIDIA earnings. Their revenue fell short by $700 million.
Well, I love how the major media now is painting that now NVIDIA has a hangover, a crypto hangover. I love it.
It's incredible. You hear like what's his name, Kramer, talking about how cryptocurrency is the reason to blame here. I think cryptocurrency is to thank for their stock going up to astronomical levels in the first place. And this was on my watch list for like 4 or 5 months. And I really wanted to short this thing. And they just, this didn't give me the options price I wanted. And then this thing made new highs and didn't give me any kind of structure to get in. So I got left behind on this trade. But
these fuckers, and we need to learn this. Sometimes when markets do top out, NASDAQ did exactly the same thing in 2000. Sometimes when markets top out, they just go straight up, face rip, and then just straight down, and they just leave all the traders behind. It sucks, but it is a brutal reality of traders' life.
You ever been to the Tower of Terror, Brian?
The Tower of Terror? No, I don't think so. Where's that?
I think that's the elevator roller coaster where you ride the elevator all the way to the top, and they've got all these haunted and scary things going on, and then they just drop you down a chute.
Oh, God.
To me, that very much reminds me of what this market's like.
Yeah. That's not a bad analogy. Not a bad analogy at all.
Straight up and straight down. And sometimes, the journey upward isn't that fast. It's kind of slow and it builds anticipation. And then once you get to the top, it stops. And then all of a sudden, it's like someone dropped the floor out and you just go all the way down.
I remember in the summertime, and I'm not mistaken, it might even be that little trader guy that you were chatting with about gold on Twitter. But I remember in the summertime, I was spitting up warnings about NVIDIA and stuff. And they were like, are you kidding me? They're fucking awesome. You don't know what you're talking about. And then this kind of shit happens, right?
Good old Twitter trader crypto, or Twitter traders. Those are my favorite.
Right. And what's really interesting is if you draw a bear AB equals CD off of this current price action, I think I put that in the lounge this morning. Let's see if I can show you. Yeah, here it is. I thought this was fascinating where if you actually, we talk lots about gaps needing to be filled, right? And they're major problems. So it shouldn't have shocked anybody. Oh, here, and I better share the right screen. Terrible. Now it's days like this that I really appreciate Alex and the amount of work that he does. Because, man, this is tricky, staying on top of multiple screens here. But I did an AB and then just simply cloned that and went CD off of this peak. And I found it fascinating that basically this AB equals CD target lines up perfectly with this gap. And you might argue that NVIDIA, there's another big old gap right there, right? But you might argue that NVIDIA kind of went into that sort of face rip mode when crypto and Bitcoin went into its face rip mode. You might even argue that you could even call this maybe even a divergence, right? That this thing's actually playing catch up with Bitcoin right now. So with this nasty, nasty looking AB equals CD, I know that there were some people in the community that were like, holy shit, it's gapped this much lower. I'm just going to go and buy it. And I got to say, cool your jets here, guys. I don't think this is extremely risky. Very, very dangerous. So just go slowly here, people. And I'm talking to one gentleman in particular. All right, back to you, sir. Sorry about that.
It's a good warning. I think it's really important that, blindly buying certain levels will get you into trouble occasionally. Sometimes you'll win. If it's a part of your plan and you can handle the heat, more power to you. But just make sure that you're obeying your levels. That's all I'll speak about in terms of...
And that goes right into a reload zone there too, eh? Son of a bitch.
Yeah, exactly. Let's see.
And also too, that's a big fat round number, $100. Right, that may actually act as a bit of a sort of catalyst. I was actually squawking about Apple this morning. I think it's going to play with a big fat round number here too. So
yeah, I'm hunting Apple on the call side. I think I missed it by about a day. I was looking at the Optionistics charts here. I was looking to buy I believe 195. No, sorry, the 200 calls with a target of
get a half decent price on these things. They're so fucking expensive.
It actually went right in. Yeah, well, as far as 6 months worth of time, that wasn't going to work. I was kind of going for a lower time frame, but that's how I'm using it. And it kind of went into my area 2 days ago. So on this sell off here, but yeah. I don't like buying that stuff. That looks dangerous, but it is what it is.
I did actually, and the irony of it all is I was tweeting away this, like literally doing a play-by-play because we had this inside bar that fired yesterday right off this trend line. And I got to agree with you, if you were sharp down in this area, I think there was probably the time to buy the calls, but damn difficult.
So hard. I mean, the only thing you've got here is price action holding you, and that's a tough.
The only thing that had me interested in buying the calls was when Jim Cramer, who's been like the fucking biggest Apple fan in the world, came out the other day and was like, sell. And I'm like, what? Really? What? Seriously? And then yesterday he goes, in his little interview, he goes, oh, well, I'm selectively buying now. Oh,
what a piece of work.
That guy, I couldn't believe him. So anyway, when I heard him getting all bearish and selly, I was like, there's got to be a trade in here somewhere. But anyway, as I said, the options were just a little too expensive for chicken shit like me. But I could in fact, actually, I think I drew up another chart on this thing. Where the hell is it? Around here somewhere. And I'm not even sure if I'm showing the right screen. I bet you I'm not. But just let me try and find the chart first. Where are you? I got to say, Boeing looks really dangerous again. Or not again, but here. Something has really shifted in this 737 issue. This is getting really serious. Yeah, here it was. So this is the chart that I put out after that. And actually, we talked about this in yesterday's daily brief. Actually, what I was doing, and let me see. Yeah, I know. I'm sorry, Bob T. I got to get over there. Hold on a second. I got to go there. I got to go there. All right. So there was the inside bar. We talked about that potentially this morning. Had a nice little counter trend rally, first hour of trading. But we talked about this yesterday, and this is what I really wanted to mention to you guys. Was I think we have to to actually believe that the bottom is in. We got to see the bears fall asleep, and I don't think they've fallen asleep yet. You can see the amount of volume today. I don't know whether we can call that kind of volume like big breakout volume. I mean, that's basically done very little. I wouldn't be surprised if we have to swim around here for a little bit, but at the same time too, look at all these gaps up here. Look where the 50% level is, 209, 210 bucks. And my hunch is for the next few months, we're probably going to oscillate around this BFRN. But we'll see how it goes. I mean, it was encouraging for the bulls that this inside bar actually fired. So there, got on the right screen. I'll shut up. Netflix. Oh boy, there's another one that looks troublesome.
Oops.
Facebook. I think Facebook went to a new low this morning.
Yeah, Facebook did. There's just one name that I wanted to show. Give kind of like an idea here to chew on, and that's this Lululemon. This is like athletics wear. Yeah, Brian's gonna get real excited about this, and I'm about to get Brian even more excited. This is Brian's trading Viagra for the day. Everyone ready? All right.
Well, I literally could see the bot. I don't even have to put the levels on. I can see the
it gets juicier. It gets juicier. Just there's more. So this one looks really nice on the downside. I'm hunting puts. They're looking very attractive at this point.
Yeah, that's just a 1 year range. Son of a bitch.
Yeah. Now, ready for Brian? We're going to change this to a weekly chart.
Oh, no, God. Sheila, close your ears.
All right. So we have a potential top that is very, very close to forming.
Oh, look at the divergence. Oh, my God.
You hear that? Brian's
they're going to announce they're putting silver back in their clothes, right? Do you remember that?
They have a new CEO, actually. So,
like she said to this person, I don't know whether the market really likes this person or not, though.
Right. So I think what's happened is the market's a little worried about what the new CEO is going to do because he's announced he wants to cut pricing on the clothing. And, a lot of people who buy their clothing, they like to use it for athletic wear, those yoga pants, it's very breathable fabric. In fact, I enjoy wearing some of their clothes to the gym. It's just, there's really nothing else like it on the market. And the problem is if they do cut prices, there's a lot of anxiety that they're going to cut down on quality. And if that happens, the stock is kind of toast here. They're going to lose a lot of their customer base. So I'm eyeing some puts here, and I don't know why these freaking fibs don't save across my devices anymore. But essentially, I'm hunting on the shorter term. I'm going to be buying the 130 puts with a target of, well, now I don't even have it because it's not on my screen. But essentially, I think I drew my fibs, and I've been kind of wonking around a little bit across time frames. But if you are an options trader, maybe this is just something best served for the options room as opposed to talking about it on here. So this will be something.
Yeah, the reason why I'm not really the biggest fan of people going full bore into options, people, is it's really easy to lose money in options. So that's the reason why I'm very sort of cautious with you guys when I talk options. Sorry, yeah, I didn't mean to interrupt there. But
no, it's really important
to throw the disclaimer out there every once in a while.
Yeah, if you haven't taken level 3 yet, and you start dabbling here without the proper background, you could blow up your account in a matter of days, really. It's crazy how volatile these things are and how difficult they can be to play. So let's see if this actually reloads. Come on. Whatever. Either way, we'll talk about it in the lounge, or if anyone wants to talk about it with me, you can PM me. But I think we should probably move to crypto at this point. I don't know why we always seem to perfectly divide this show 30 and 30, and I wanted to get into that. So if you don't mind, Brian, we could transition over to crypto now. And I'll take Brian's...
Sure, why not? What the hell? Go for it.
All right. Oh, look, now, of course, it just loaded my fibs. Thanks a lot.
Google's fucking with us. Did we do a short recommendation on Google or something?
Yeah. So this was what I was kind of looking at from the weekly perspective. I'd probably be looking for the 119 puts, and I'm actually waiting for this to head and shoulders out is probably what I'm expecting. But my weekly targets for my options are going to be different than my daily. This is probably going to be a two-pronged trade for me. I also have this down here, $130 calls, target 119. Right now I can pay 507. They're currently 534. Or sorry, puts.
Okay.
Typo. Thank you.
So this is where people lose money with options really quickly. Oh, I was going to buy a put, but I ended up buying a call. What the fuck?
Right. That can happen too. You can really blow yourself up doing stupid shit. And I think this is actually going lower than it was when I looked earlier. So this one's...
Yeah, I mean, that thing looks like a fucking train ride to hell. I wouldn't be surprised if this thing gaps lower here.
Yeah. All right. There's your
trade idea, dude. Nice trade. And, we haven't had Thomas on through the weekend, so I miss this great banter that we have where we just sort of throw ideas back and forth. But yep, you're definitely heading in the right direction here. Now, I guess the question would be, and actually, Sheila, do you buy Lululemon stuff? Our resident female. I'd be curious to see because Lululemon was the shit there for a while. Like anybody, like you said, you do. Did you do yoga? I don't know.
Sorry. Go ahead.
Well, just the point is that these guys were just the shit. And I'd just be curious to see whether they're, like JoJo, she was perfect at this. She always knew what the hot trends were. But I'd just be curious to see whether these guys are even in vogue anymore. So
They are. I mean, it's really popular. You go to the gym, it's not just women that are wearing them, men wear them. I like their pants. I like their shorts. They're just great material. They don't get screwed up. You can drag a, 350-pound bar up your legs deadlifting and it won't fray your clothes or tear, and you protect your shins from getting destroyed. So I think they're still very much they're very popular. People wear them to yoga all the time, and it's very much casual wear in the United States. I mean, in the summertime, all the girls are walking around with them. And it's funny because in Europe, I don't see anyone wearing athletic wear. It's really interesting to see the dichotomy between the two fashions in the US and in Europe.
Totally.
Blah,
Okay,
blah, blah.
we should probably move on to crypto, like you said. Time is ticking here.
So let me roll through this stuff really quickly. There's some important news articles that people have to be aware of. This is the first one that was actually at the bottom of the list, but I think that anyone that holds SALT, you need to be made aware that they are under SEC investigation. Now, while most people might think, all right, I don't own SALT or I don't give a shit about SALT, the other issue here is that Eric Voorhees used to be on their board, and he might potentially also be, well, actually, there is a section of the investigation pointed at him. Anyone that knows what Shapeshift is, that was when you could send cryptocurrency to his website and turn it into any other currency without going through an exchange, and it would send those coins to you, and it was kind of like a Tumblr. And I think certain agencies here in the US didn't like that, and they kind of bent his arm behind his back and said, you need to force people to not only create accounts, but you also have to do KYC. And people are not happy with him for complying, but now he's under investigation for SALT.
I was wondering how this SALT thing was going to play out, right? It's supposed to be like a loan system.
Yeah, I don't think it's really worked the way they wanted to. I think they botched their ICO. They lost a lot of people through that. And right now, price is down about 28%. So I'd be real careful holding this one. This looks like if anything comes out of the SEC that they're going to, penalize them. I think they're already hanging by a thread here, and that might just be the straw that breaks the camel's back here. So keep that in mind.
Good idea not to put too much money into any one of these ideas, people.
Yeah. Next article. This is just I wanted a little positivity here, and that's our old friend Christine Lagarde here was giving a talk at the Singapore FinTech Festival. And she seems to sway whichever way the wind blows. Before she's like the devil herself, saying crypto is horrible. It's all for money launderers and drug dealers, and it's just terrible. And now she's saying, well, a new wind is blowing, that of digitalization in this new world. She thinks that maybe it's actually a good thing because she's realizing that the euro is a piece of shit and she is in control of one of the most dangerous central banks and policy creation that exists right now on the planet. I mean, if anything is hanging by a thread, it's the euro. And as far as the International Monetary Fund is concerned, I don't think she's probably not so happy with the fact that she has to make public commentary about the fact that maybe cryptocurrency could have a future and that it is potentially going to be useful. And she talks ad nauseum about the positives and the negatives, but it's, to me, entertaining to hear a politician of her magnitude going back and forth whichever way the wind blows. So I thought this
was a politician or a bureaucrat.
Is there a difference?
I don't know. Yeah.
So a little interesting happiness.
Yeah. Here. And, I might argue, we teach this in our courses. Do institutions buy up markets? So when Bitcoin's racing up to 20 grand, are any of them going to be interested? No. They got the market down. It's on its knees. And, of course, this is when they come in and say, oh, actually, it turns out we really weren't that negative on it to begin with. Well, bullshit. Yeah. Par for the course.
Yeah, par for the course. Next thing here is Bitcoin ETF. So be very careful about this headline. These submissions were simply comments that people could add onto the website. If you remember, months ago, we were kind of joking around by some of these comments that were added in support of a Bitcoin ETF. I think they opened it back up to commentary. That's officially closed now. And I think on December 29th now is the next decision deadline, which is written here. So that's for the VanEck Solid X ETF. They received 1,400 comment letters from the public, and now a decision date has been set for December 29th as far as whether or not they're going to proceed here with that ETF. So mark that in your calendars. You got this freaking ETF drama. It's like they keep drawing this crap out. There's new deadlines, new dates every goddamn month. And at this point, it's kind of like Finex. People should just stop caring and just wait for it's been approved. And that's that. It's driving me crazy. But that was something worthwhile mentioning before I get into this Bcash situation. I guess there's one more article just about an Ohio congressman who wants to, as the headline states, allow ICOs to sidestep security laws. He also is proposing some rule changes as far as some lawmaking, changing the way that we look at cryptocurrency and kind of leading the direction here for policy on crypto. So he's very much pro-crypto, and I don't know if he has much support. And of course, a Bitcoin media website like Cointelegraph is going to talk about this in positive light. I think it's great. We finally have someone there who is pro-crypto and is saying, you know what, SEC, you guys need to chill here. This is a little too much.
It would be very curious to see who his major campaign contribution people are.
Oh, that's a friggin' great idea. Let's see if we can do that.
Well, maybe let's research it after this, but I wouldn't be surprised if he's in the back pocket of
who do you think? Roger Ver?
I don't know. It wouldn't surprise me though. I don't know whether they'll even say. And you know, the problem with these, right, is that a lot of the money is sort of through these super PACs and stuff like that, right? That you never know who's actually running them.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's interesting. House Freedom Fund. What the fuck is that?
I don't know. But Ernst & Young is down there. They've got a blockchain.
Yeah. So yeah, it would be like I said. You know, a politician doesn't come out like that unless he was, asked politely to do so. That was probably one of his campaign contributors, and he's like, "Okay, I've done it. I did the deal with the devil. There you go. Now wash my hands of this whole damn thing." That's Brian the cynic talking. Sorry.
No, it's interesting. Large individual contributions are 35.5%.
Yeah, well, and the PAC, like I said, I mean, who's controlling those PACs, right?
Yeah, it's Roger Ver. Just good God. All right, speaking of that, Shlomo, let's get into the meat and potatoes of what's been going on here. This has been nothing short of ridiculous. This whole fork is just predicated on, and it seems like it's two people, but there's really three entities here that are really vying for taking control of Bitcoin Cash. They all have different ideas, and this is nicely summarized by this article. So you've got Team ABC, and why is it called that? Who cares? But it's basically Roger Ver and Jihan Wu. Roger Ver and Jihan Wu partnered together. Jihan is the CEO of Bitmain. They control a shitload of the crypto miners, not only pointed at Bitcoin, but also at maintaining the Bitcoin Cash ecosystem as well. Now you've got Team SV, and that is the Craig Wright fake Satoshi in combination with this Jimmy Nguyen, who is the nChain CEO, who has kind of been, a little bit shady. So these two guys are really going head to head, and it's really just, to me, a story of two guys with too much money, too much media attention, playing high stakes poker, trying to get the other person to blink and basically win a game. Like, these two guys, stop doing this to each other. Use your money for good and better the world instead of trying to smack each other across the face here. It's like really a waste of time is what this comes down to. But you also have a third party here, which is the Bitcoin Unlimited party. And they basically believe that there are other ways that the Bitcoin Cash chain should be going here. So basically what you want to figure out here is who's the winner of this fork. This happened yesterday about 20 minutes before the daily brief. the fork went live, and well, there's really no clear winner here just yet. But before I continue and show you how you can actually track this stuff, I want to show you what each side stands for. So the Bitcoin ABC party, which is, they're calling it, like, who cares what they're calling it? This is just the article itself. But you've got Roger Ver, Jihan Wu, and now you have John McAfee on their side, who, it was such a joke. He comes out and he sends an email.
How did he inject himself into this shit? Eh?
Oh, he just always needs to be in the spotlight. He's such an attention whore. It's freaking so annoying listening to him. But he just,
that guy's in his 70s, eh? Jesus,
yeah,
that's surprising.
Yeah. I can't find the email, but he's just like, I am one of the oldest men in battle, and I would be happy.
Yeah. And I'll carry a sword by your side.
Yeah.
Shit,
like, go home. Go to, you know, what are 70-year-old dudes at this point? Like, go to your early bird dinner special and go to bed early.
Or do a whole bunch of crack, one of the two.
Yeah, or he could go to his house with his tents that he likes to do those dirty things with the lady. Anyway, here are the three parties.
So like all of the urchins are coming out in this debate, in this Bitcoin Cash nonsense. Isn't that incredible?
The sludge from the sewers has risen here.
Yeah. And really, you know, in a weird sort of way, this is a bad commentary on crypto, because the whole idea here is technically we're supposed to be decentralized, no central authority. But what I see happening is that literally this decentralization has become extremely centralized. It's really, I think, you know, looking back, like somebody could easily write a book 10, 15, 20 years from now and talk about how this was the dream of Satoshi has been incredibly corrupted.
Yeah, it's true. I mean, the fact that Bitcoin Cash supporters, or even the guys themselves, think or even tell people that it's still decentralized, they're all delusional. Every single one of them who think it's decentralized, they've lost their marbles.
Well, and you know, I made the argument recently, and so to thank you for reminding me. Back in the summertime, you know, people were like, "Oh, cost of production $6,000, $7,000, whatever. I think we're at the bottom." And I was like, the only way I'm going to know that we are at or near the bottom is when we start hearing talks about 51% attacks. Yeah. And now I find it fascinating. Even a month or two ago, we were not talking about 51% attacks, but now all of a sudden it is common conversation. So in a weird sort of way, actually, this is kind of good what's happening. Because what's the way that you can re-decentralize all of this shit? Just get price back up, which brings other people in to mine competitively, and you can start to dilute that conversation again. So in a weird sort of way, this talk about 51% attack and this dickhead, I mean, fuck, these guys are just assholes. But this Craig Wright guy, I mean, I'll go on the record. This guy is a jerk. The fact that he's coming out and, you know, threatening, I'm going to kill your coin, right? Well, what's the solution to that? Well, prices just got to start moving back up, bring in competition in the mining space, and that whole 51% attack conversation goes away. So it's fascinating how this is all sort of playing out step by step by step, and it's very similar to 2015. It's quite remarkable, really.
Yeah.
So I just wanted to get that out. I was thinking that thought yesterday, and was chatting in the lounge, but I wasn't able to articulate it. So I was able to. So I feel much better now. I got that verbal diarrhea out. Whew. Okay, where do you want to go next?
All right, so I think we need to just basically understand why these three parties are they're in such opposition. And they just believe that the way Bitcoin Cash should be run, they have different philosophies on that. So Roger Ver and Jihan Wu, they believe that they should limit transaction sizes and keep the block size at 32 megabytes in order to combat centralization. Okay, guys, how do you... Like, just the fact that they're saying that is absurd, because we already talked about how this already is centralized because they own so much of the mining power. They own so much of the coins. It's mind-bending. Anyway, the next thing that they want to do is introduce this opcode, and there's a whole list of the codes that they want to implement here. But basically, they want to add in specific lines here to allow programmers to improve and build upon the software of the chain to validate messages that are outside of the blockchain and to enable oracles and cross-chain atomic contracts. So this is essentially all Roger Ver and Jihan Wu. So you really have to ask, what's the real motivation here? Why do they want stuff like this? And there's the other two parties that have come out against this. So in addition, the last thing that this article highlights is this thing called canonical transaction ordering, which allows them to sort of give priority on certain transactions on the blockchain, Bitcoin Cash blockchain. And it's just a bunch of bullshit, really. It's just saying that, oh, in case the Bitcoin Cash protocol gets upgraded, they're prepared for giant transactions to come through and they'll be able to keep the network from being congested. Okay, that's nice. So next you've got Bitcoin, you have Craig Wright's stance on the issues. And he believes that blocks should be increased from 32 megabytes to 128 megabytes, which really is absurd because right now the average block size in the last 3 months, the range has only been 50 kilobytes to 3 megabytes. So 3 megabytes is way less than 32 megabytes, which is even more less than 128 megabytes that they want. And then on top of that, the largest block that's ever been mined on Bitcoin Cash is 8 megabytes. So, okay, Craig Wright, I can see that maybe 500 years in the future, this might be necessary. Next, they want to add in even more opcode. And the problem with what Craig Wright wants to introduce here is that it's code that can be executed in a shady-ish way. So it's generally been looked at as ways that could corrupt or even kind of add congestion, add a little bit of uncertainty, compromise the security of the chain by adding some of these codes into the chain themselves. So you really have to question what's Craig Wright's motivation for wanting to do that here.
And Shane is saying that he's losing like $18,000 an hour?
Yeah, so I'll get into how you can actually check to see what's going on here. But the last thing that I want to kind of go over is just Bitcoin Unlimited. And this is by the Bitcoin Cash developer by the name of the Zerg, president of blah, 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 blah. And they believe that, voting on soft fork should be lowered. They don't actually come out and say anything about the block size, but they're all about consensus when it comes to voting for miners. And, it's just like a third party. It's kind of like the independent party. Like, are they really going to be able to do anything? They don't have enough money. They don't have enough miners here to control everything. And the question that we're all here waiting for is, who's the freaking winner of this stupid thing? Well, the first thing that you can do is check out the nodes. The only way you can actually see the nodes is, before I found this website, was to run a Bitcoin Cash node yourself. And I personally don't know anybody that runs a Bitcoin Cash node. I certainly wouldn't want to download the code and put it on my computer. I'm not saying there's anything wrong with it. It's just kind of a joke at Craig and, Roger Ver and Jihan here at this point. But you can see the distribution here. So Bitcoin Unlimited has about 29.4%, and Bitcoin ABC has 40.4% of the nodes running. You want to have the majority of the nodes being supported by one or the other. So right now it looks like the majority are supporting Bitcoin ABC. On top of that, there's another site where you can actually watch these blocks coming in. It's called coin.cash.dance, and they're monitoring all of these blocks here. According to this, Bitcoin ABC is 30 blocks ahead. They have a whole bunch of pending here. So it looks like the last ones that came in were a while ago. I don't know if I can actually see the timing on this, but there was a lot of concern yesterday. And here's what's really going on in terms of the battle, in that Craig Wright has a lot of money and he's buying a lot of hash power. And when you have a lot of hash power, you have control of a lot of miners, you can do a lot of things, one of which being control the fork, control being the winner of this fork here, or you can point your hash power at mining these other blocks for Bitcoin ABC, and they're what are called kind of like dead blocks. There's really nothing in there, and what you do is you end up releasing them. So you mine them, and then you're just like, oh, just kidding, there's nothing in there, and then you end up screwing over Bitcoin ABC because you have a bunch of these nonsense blocks not doing anything. Now, in addition to that, these two are fighting by bombarding each other's chain with these overflow attacks, with a bunch of spam. Essentially, it's like almost like a denial of service attack against
Yeah,
these.
I was just thinking they're probably DDoS each other, right?
Exactly. So they're doing all this stupid shit, and really, it seems like at this point, at least, Bitcoin ABC is ahead. Now, the problem is, and this is why a lot of the exchanges are putting deposits and withdrawals on hold, is that what you could ostensibly do here, if you're Craig Wright or Roger Ver, you could mine some of the blocks for ABC or SV, and what you could essentially do is execute a double spend attack. So you say, yeah, I'm selling off, $1.1 million worth of Bitcoin ABC coin. And what you could do is just execute a double spend. You don't actually have those coins. The exchange ends up getting screwed over. They give you the liquidity for these coins, and you could crash an exchange. And that's why these exchanges are like, oh, we're going to halt withdrawals and deposits. You're not allowed to move anything until we figure out what the fuck is going on, because really this is just a mystery. We don't know if they're called shadow blocks, excuse me. It's called shadow mining when you do stuff like this, is what I think the colloquial term is.
Anybody who owns any of this BCH, I think that's probably good advice, is just don't touch this until the fucking dust settles.
Well, definitely don't trade it. You can't move. I mean, at this point, don't, like Shane said yesterday, don't move any of your stuff. The exchanges, interestingly enough, have already distributed both coins. So if you had Bitcoin Cash, you now have Bitcoin ABC and Bitcoin SV. Now, what are these things worth? So the problem that's really happened here for the exchanges is they've decided to change. They've decided to change the ticker symbols. So Bitcoin Cash is no longer BCH, which is hilarious because there's so much BCH merchandise. This was actually talked about on someone else's stream. I'm just repeating this, but there's no more BCH as a ticker symbol. Bitcoin ABC is now called BAB, and you can type that into your TradingView chart, and you can get your chart here on Finex. I don't think, maybe Polo's the other one that's transitioned here, but OKX still has suspended trading on Bitcoin Cash. Can't actually do anything here. So Bitcoin ABC, Roger Ver's coin, is now called BAB. And if you want to track Roger, yeah, it's confusing as hell. And then if you want to track Craig Wright's coin, Craig Wright's coin is BSV. I would prefer if they just took the V out of it and just called it BS coin. Yes. So right now, the two of these have come off. Yeah, thank you. These two have come off precipitously, right? Remember, Bitcoin Cash was 408 going into the chain, into the fork. And I mean, really, beginning of the month, this thing was $600. Bitcoin ABC is now worth $276, and Bitcoin Craig Wright is only worth $107. So this is a massive shit stain across the crypto market and a huge joke. And these two guys have really just ruined Bitcoin Cash. I mean, if I'm the public, if I'm a retail investor, hell, if I'm an institutional investor, I don't want to touch this shit with a 500 million mile long pole. These two guys are toxic to the whole space. The two of them should just go into their own separate sector, call it the BS crypto sector, and they can just duke it out over there. I hate that this has happened, but if you want to keep tracking,
and technically this could happen to any one of these sort of centralized coins, right? They could all break into civil war, like Ripple and stuff like that, right?
Could they? Yeah, I guess technically you could. And it's interesting because Charlie Lee was on this podcast yesterday when there was a bunch of guys going through and talking about what was going on live. And the question posed to Charlie Lee was essentially, what would you do if this shit started happening on Litecoin? And he started laughing and he said, well, first of all, I doubt it would. But in the event that it does, the only thing that you have to do is switch your miners from proof of stake to proof of work. And the miners don't even matter anymore. And then it's like, okay, whatever, done, problem solved. But the problem is this is so centralized that nobody wants to do that here. And now we're caught in this battle here. And Craig Wright's busy tweeting shit out today. And he's like, to all Bitcoin miners, if you switch to mine Bitcoin Cash, we need to fund this with Bitcoin. So he's making this announcement that he's going to sell all these coins, and he thinks he's going to topple the Bitcoin market. He thinks he has so much money that he can actually make a difference here in the Bitcoin world. I don't think he can. I think he's full of nonsense, because really, have we seen any logical, realistic thoughts coming out of his mind, or really productive ideas? And
You know, the weird part about it is this he's going to get assassinated. This guy, I swear, somebody's going to lose a lot of money out of this, and he's going to get a fucking contract out on his head.
Yeah,
he should be careful.
He's definitely shaking a lot of trees that he shouldn't be shaking. But
Totally.
that's what happens, right? These two guys hate each other's guts. If you watch the interview and the debate that they've had, I mean, it's like, really, guys? There's a lot of problems in the world. This is what you want to do right now? Okay, whatever. So essentially, long story short here, we're really not going to know who wins this for probably a couple of weeks because of this shadow mining, because the exchange, it actually has nothing to do with the exchanges, but really you just need to see what's the consensus, who is supporting who. And, you know, right now it looks like Bitcoin ABC is winning, but if Craig Wright has been shadow mining all these Bitcoin ABC blocks and he decides to release all of them as nonsense, that's a real concern here, and Bitcoin SV could be the winner. And that's why prices come down so much.
It's funny how you just said that. You said it very quietly, but I think you totally nailed it. The exchanges right now are like, oh, phew, thank God the heat's off us.
Yeah. Like, for once,
you know, like Arthur Hayes right now, he's like, fine, let them have fun. Who cares? Just get the fucking attention off of the exchanges.
Sorry. Yeah, sorry, Shane. I actually made a mistake. It's from proof of work to proof of stake. I said from proof of stake to proof of work. That was good catch there. So Charlie Lee could just switch, which they're currently doing proof of, maybe I'm just confused. I thought, so what's Bitcoin right now? Bitcoin is proof of stake. Proof of work. Okay, so I have it all backwards. Sorry. Sometimes, just like when I say overbought versus oversold, I have a little bit of,
or calls or puts.
Yeah, I've got a little bit of dyslexia. Yeah, sorry, guys.
That's okay. I mean, dude, this was a really, really good presentation. Thank you very much for trying to walk us through all this insanity.
Yeah, yeah, my pleasure.
You know, I had my little Star Wars linked picture. I don't have it up on the screen anymore. And I try to make sense out of it. And I'm like, I don't know what the fuck's going on. So if anything, yeah, I'm very grateful that you've done this here today, because at least now I can kind of understand what's going on. So way to go, dude.
I'll add a little bit more to that, actually.
Okay. Here comes Shane.
So yeah, Thomas is right. We're still not a clear winner here. And to add to the drama, there's Bitcoin ABC was 53 blocks ahead yesterday. So whether it's the shadow blocks or if Bitcoin ABC is pulling back their hash rate, this isn't going to be over. This might be something that Craig Wright just goes and just drives into the ground.
Yeah, and the problem is this guy's got a pretty damn big ego. And usually that's, you know, they always say, has anybody ever heard me say this before? Maybe you can finish this. He who the gods wish to destroy first, do something. Fill in the blank. And this guy, it feels like he's setting himself up for a colossal fall here. I don't know. Anyway, at the end of that line, he who the gods wish to destroy first make drunk with power.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, yeah, really, really great conversation here today, Thomas. You're definitely earning your keep today, no doubt about it. Do we want to get into some price analysis, or do we maybe just want to leave it at that and say, you know, I think great. And if anything, this is good because this is a catalyst that's going to mark the bottom, right? They're going to wash this thing out. We needed a big fight. We needed, you know, does anybody remember back in 2015? I was mentioning this in the lounge yesterday, but I couldn't remember the guy's name. You remember Bitcoin was sitting at about $200-300, and some guy who was a fat cat at that time said, "That's it, I'm getting out of Bitcoin." And he had like 30,000 coins, and he put them up for sale. And he was like, "That's it, I'm done. I'm gonna wash my hands of it." And that literally marked the bottom. And we all watched. I remember I was watching with the guys on TradingView, I think at that point. We were all watching the DOM and just watching tick by tick by tick as the market just ate through all those coins. And as soon as that trade was done, that was the bottom. Market never looked back. So maybe we need to see this happen to this clown, Craig Wright or whatever. and then that will mark, the bottom. That's tough to say, but geez, it's incredible the similarities between what I see happening now and 2015. Fascinating.
I'm glad you said that, because I was thinking the same thing here. This is the kind of crazy shit you need to hit the market to really take any fluff that's left over. Any retail guy that's still in here and he's just like, I still love crypto. And then this happens. He's like, I support Bitcoin Cash. And then this happens and they're just like, you know what, fuck it. Crypto's crazy. I'm done. You wash out some of the people here. And well, I'm not saying this is the bottom, but it's certainly the kind of fundamental event that you need to wash the market out to really get people to stop paying attention to it, because this kind of fireworks, this kind of drama, it's going to draw people to look at it and go, this is just crazy. This crypto stuff, I don't get it. I don't know why these guys are fighting. I didn't know there was something called Bitcoin Cash. Fuck it, I'm done.
Yeah, just call my broker, get me out of this shit. I will wash my hands.
Yeah, buy me some of that GE. I'm from 1950.
Yep. So, all right. Do we want to talk price action? Do you have a position on Bitcoin here? I see you got your Bitcoin chart on your.
Yeah, it's funny. I really wanted to. I do have a short on right now, and I had some issues with OKCoin going into the dump here. I had some major issues with them actually, and really scared the shit out of me because of the way that they settle contracts. I thought that I ended up losing on a big position, but I ended up actually gaining on it, which I should have originally. There was an issue with the way that their system was processing my order. Long story short, it all got figured out, and I'm a happy clam. And it was just the system.
You're lucky. Like Binance, are people still able to get onto Binance yet?
Someone messaged me this morning that they weren't able to get onto it.
So, and usually when we have these dramatic fuck yous, these exchanges get all screwy. So the fact that you came out ahead through all this, way to go.
Yeah. So, as far as what I'm doing now, I do have a short position on, and that's mainly because of what I'm seeing out of price action here on the hourly. I don't like that we're going into the weekend. I don't like the lack of buying interest. The fact that we went through a kill zone overnight, and we put in this like 30-minute W and we topped out. This here is a key high for me. And I'm just going based on price action with this divergence here. I think that this might actually continue to validate itself. So I have a position here, and I'm not going to talk about any kind of stops or targets, because for whoever the hell's watching this thing, they love fucking with my levels. So sorry, guys, but that's all I'm going to give you as far as.
That's perfectly valid, and I think that's a good idea. Interestingly enough, actually, I do think we have some spies in here. I was actually quite shocked. Like I said, I sort of. I'm not going to toot my own horn, but when Kramer came out and said, oh, yeah, bearish, sell, I actually responded to him with that Apple chart, and I was like, I think we're in like a buying zone. Then all of a sudden his tone totally changed. I'm not saying I had anything to do with his tone changing, but I do find it interesting that I do think that there are people that actually do listen to us here. So if you don't want to disclose levels, totally fine by me. Really, all I want to know is how you feeling. Are you feeling long? You feeling short? So you told me you're feeling short.
Yeah.
And frankly speaking, the trend is your friend. Everybody should know which way the trend is going right here. I do like the idea that maybe we've hit a bit of a capitulation, but I think we probably won't find out the ultimate answer to this until after this Bcash nonsense actually plays itself out and we know what the resolution is. And as Thomas said here, I think that's a good point. If we get some sort of resolution heading into the weekend, you might see the market pop higher. If you are, if we just take a quick boo at my screen, I happen to have the OKCoin chart on here. It's whatever market you're trading. I thought it was interesting, actually. In the lounge this morning, Simon Dixon, I put in an interview. He did a big video on his Bank to the Future platform. And and it was like a Q&A, ask me anything. And I was like, well, why is Phoenix still massively disconnected with all the rest of the markets when it comes to Bitcoin price? Of course, no answer. So I don't know. I still don't think that whole Phoenix situation in Tether has actually been resolved. It's just that kind of like what we said a moment ago, all these exchanges are like, oh, thank God we got this to distract people while we still go through our shit. But not a bad idea. Top end of the range. We talk about candle body, wicks and tails. This seems to me to be a pretty powerful level here. You can see how they brought the market into that level and just said, nope, get your ass out of there. Brought the market back down to this level. Nope, get your ass out of there. Ping-pongy. I mean, really, one could argue you could easily see Bitcoin, fall a good $500 here through the weekend. And, they'll just play around with price and then open it up Monday morning, and it'll be relatively the same for the Chicago boys. So get ready. There could be some wild fireworks here, no doubt about it. I'd just be curious, and maybe just tell us if you are or not. You don't have to give us specific levels. I remember you saying a week or two ago that you were interested in building a long position in Ethereum for longer term, and you were going to use shorting to sort of hedge that, just to make sure that you could hold on to the position. Are you still in that trade, or did you decide to close all that out?
That was actually what happened, though. I was discussing the issue was that I had a running stop to lock in profits if price came down, with the hedge to lock in profits in addition to the movement that came down. So I had a long position from like 194, and once it hit 217 or something on the way down, I put on a short to insulate the position to keep the profit on. And there was some bunch of stuff that happened, but to answer your question, I liquidated the position and I realized profits on both the long and the short. And that's
good.
Kind of what's happening. But as far as wanting to build a long position, I mean, that was the idea there, and I'm certainly going to do it once this cleans up. But I think this has certainly put the pause on the idea of accumulating those positions. I know there's a lot of people that were really excited to be buying down here, and I think that if that's in your plan, that's great. But as far as where I'm looking, when it comes to the higher time frame charts, weekly, daily, 4 hour, they all look pretty bearish to me. So I can't really stick my neck out just yet.
On that chart, I sure do love a tag of value low there, right?
Yeah, $2,000, right?
Well, no, I value low there looks like that 4,000 area on your chart, but that notch right there. I remember Grim has been showing us that volume profile chart of that 4,000 for. There's a big old notch there, and of course, look at that juicy tail. I saw somebody out on Twitter the other day go, I learned somewhere that wicks and tails like to be eaten. And so you can see that tail from back in September of 2017. That's their target. And I was like, oh, really? Where'd you hear that? So it's great to see that our message is actually getting out to the world. That makes me exceedingly happy.
Anything we can do to keep the retail investor from blowing himself up is a victory in my book. And it's nice to see.
Totally.
Yeah,
okay, we've gone well past the top of the hour, so really, dude, fantastic job as always. Thank you very much for a great show. It's interesting. Before the show started, Thomas was like, "Oh, you're gonna really like today," and I gotta say, you delivered. Hats off, dude.
Thanks.
Alex, have yourself an awesome rest of your birthday. Let's see if if Alex is face down in a ditch right now. I sure hope not. Julian, hope you had yourself a good birthday too. We'll see everybody, I suppose, for broiler chickens, level 3ers. Ooh, tomorrow's a first day of options. Trial by fire, right? So actually the level 3ers are just going to be getting into options now. We look forward to that class tomorrow. Have yourselves a great day, everybody. Obviously, very, tumultuous times in the markets. Try and play from a position of strength. Everybody knows what their absolute number one job is to do. Don't think that you're don't put yourself into a position like this. I honestly believe this Mr. Craig Wright guy, he's setting himself up for a horrendous fall here. I wouldn't be surprised if a few years from now we actually look back and we find out what, train wreck actually comes of this. We don't need to be that. In fact, somebody even told me the other day, they said one of the main reasons why they are here at TRI is because we're exactly not like that. And this person said, Brian, you have like no ego at all, which I absolutely love. I don't know whether I do or not, but I hope that we really drive home the PMA. 1 + 1 = 3. Let's work together. I don't need to fucking toot my own horn. I just really need to, at the end of the day, feel as though I've made a small difference in your lives. That's really what I'm all about. So thank you very much. Bagra, you're coming right at the end of the video. I'm just about to sign off here. But anyway, I just saw Booger pop in. But anyway, have yourselves a great day, everybody. Look forward to Monday's daily brief again. I don't know whether Mr. Bear is going to be in the saddle, but we'll be ready to do it all again next Monday morning. So have yourselves a great day, everybody. I have to go and get my homework assignments. Albert's going to work my ass off here for the rest of the day, so I got lots of work ahead of me. All the best, and the only thing left to say to you good people is a big bye for now.